say that, but
So we don't have to talk about that tonight. We can leave it with the spreadsheet. Yeah, that's all right.
No, it's
Emma, you don't have to pull up that spreadsheet for this evening.
okay.
I'll
It's
fix it.
We
I'll
haven't-
make it
anyways.
public.
We haven't looked at it really,
Yeah,
so.
and nobody's looked at it, so.
Okay.
well, it's Glenn's brainchild, so if
Wha-
he can fix it.
Oh, the spreadsheet?
Yeah,
No, he had nothing to do with that.
I thought he was the one that said we should do it, and
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, he's the one who said we should do it, yes.
oh, it's not his format.
No,
It's
I
yours. Oh,
created
okay,
it,
okay.
yes, but I can, if you can't open it, I can fix that very quickly. I thought I fixed it, but I probably didn't.
Worked for me, but I have a Google account. so-
Yeah, see, that's why, yeah, all right, I'll fix it.
Okay.
Oh, dear. Come on, folks. I know 701.
Is that? Did I? What? Sorry. I did freeze it. Apparently. Should this connect in? Oh no. Nope. Oh, I did. Never mind.
So we're missing Sheila, Glenn, and Lou, right? Well, we're gonna start at 7:05 regardless.
Mike's on.
John, you wanna try that, Mike?
Testing.
Yep, okay, good.
Can I turn off half the lights?
Speaking of testing, the MCAS results were mailed home today.
I got
All the
mine the
kids-
other day.
How did you do?
I'm gonna have to take it again in the 12th grade because I didn't pass in the 10th.
I got really worried for a minute. I was like, oh, did I pass last year? And then I was like, wait, I didn't have to take them. Yay.
I remember my girls taking them in their sophomore year.
Yeah, my daughter's a junior now.
Well, actually, Jennifer never did because the requirement hadn't kicked in, but Allison had to take it, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So these were the results for the 10th grade year, so my daughter's excited she gets to graduate. Well,
And the 8th graders too.
yeah.
High stakes testing.
Yep. Good evening, the hour being 7:05 on October 11, 2016. I would like to call this meeting of the Charter Review Committee to order. And I'd like to advise that we are being televised live by Chelmsford Telemedia and recorded also for future broadcast. I don't see any representatives from the press in the audience, so we can start with our agenda. First item on the agenda is housekeeping and follow-up action items. I don't believe we have any housekeeping issues that I'm aware of, unless somebody else wants to follow up or mention something. Are we okay? Yes, Dan.
When you come on the property out front, there's a granite sign that the first line says Chelmsford. Or Chelmsford, I'm sorry. What's the second line say? Town offices. Just for the record.
And it's shown that way on our masthead, too. Town offices, 50 Billrica Road. So thank you very much. And having mentioned that, that will stay in my mind forever, I promise you. So hopefully I won't make that mistake again. As we all know, we schedule open session public input for each meeting. And we've also extended invitations to various town officials to come and address us and give their overview, input, whatever it is they want to tell us relative to their views on the charter. And so this evening, Mr. John Kurland, who was our town moderator, is the first one to accept that invitation, so he's here this evening. So I would like to ask Mr. Kurland to step up to the podium and give us the benefit of his insight.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, first I'd like to thank you all for stepping up and volunteering. The reason Chelmsford is great is because we have a lot of people who step up, volunteer, give of their time and talents. So thank you very much. With respect to the charter, I'm here because I thought that perhaps my observations, having been a town meeting rep, a finance committee member, a selectman, and now the town moderator, might be of some value to you in your deliberations. And the issues that I'm focusing on really have to do with town meeting, obviously, as the moderator. So the first item, I guess, is the size of our representative town meeting. We have 162 members, 9 precincts. Every year we have 6 candidate positions open, and they're for 3-year terms. I've given this a lot of thought because it's very important that each precinct be fully represented, if possible. And there have been times in the past where we have not reached our 162 representative goal. We have done that in the last few years, but people move out, they pass away, they have personal issues, and even tomorrow night at the town manager's pre-town meeting, there are 7 vacancies that are going to be voted on so that we can have our full complement on Monday when we start town meeting. So, first of all, I like the number that we've got because it's a number that is at times difficult to attain, but it is attainable. I think that if we add a significant number of new town meeting reps, we're going to have some issues with space. Okay, right now the senior center is pretty crowded when we have a good turnout, and if we have a number more, then the space will become much more problematic. But I also think that you have to balance the fact that we want every precinct to be fully represented, so that if each precinct has 18 representatives, we normally can do that. And it's true that in some elections, we have some precincts who have 8 or 9 or 10 running for 6 spots, and other precincts we have 5 running for 6 spots. But we're always able to fill the gaps, and the people who run and aren't successful in one year, they very well may be successful the next. So as far as the number of town meeting reps, I'm pretty comfortable with the number that we've got, and you know, just my observation is that if it isn't broken, don't fix it. But with respect to the issue of whether the town moderator appoints the finance committee, I know that this is something that is under consideration. And first of all, most communities that have representative, that have finance committee and a moderator, the moderator appoints the finance committee. One of the things when I served on the finance committee that I enjoyed the most was the unfettered freedom of being able to not worry about the politics, okay? And as a town meeting, as a finance committee member, you sort of have to balance the long-term goals with the short-term. And from a political perspective, it is often easier and more politically advisable, shall we say, to look at the short-term and not to look at the long-term. We had a fire station that we knew in the 80s was not going to last, and we didn't replace it until a couple of years ago. So on the finance committee, you really have a lot of freedom. You don't have to run for office, and I truly enjoyed my years on the finance committee because there were times when the finance committee would make a recommendation that was at variance with the Board of Selectmen. And I sort of enjoyed those times when the town meeting reps would side with finance committee because they knew that we didn't have a political agenda, that we were just trying to do what we felt was best for the town from a purely financial point of view. When I became a selectman, it was like the coin flipped. Okay, there were a number, most selectmen are most concerned about the politics of what goes on. They're concerned about getting reelected, and they will, and I'm not saying this in a negative, it's just the reality of the way the system works. They are, constituents will call them more often about problems than they would call finance committee members. And I believe that if one of the considerations is having the Board of Selectmen or the town manager appoint the finance committee members, that it is more neutral to have the moderator. I'm reasonably partisan on a national level, but certainly at a town level, I've appointed a number of finance committee members, and I have no idea what their political bent is. I interview them. I look for qualities that I think are admirable for our finance committee, and whether they're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, it doesn't matter to me, okay? I'm looking for the best person, and sometimes I'm concerned that partisan politics can sometimes play a role in towns where the finance committee is appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So I'm not putting a rap on our Board of Selectmen by any means, but I truly believe that, and to be honest with you, it's a lot more work for me, okay? But I think that the system works pretty well, and that our finance committee is a very hardworking committee, that they are always looking out for what's best for the town. They try to balance the long-term goals of the town with the short-term needs, and they're sort of above the fray. And I enjoyed that when I was on the finance committee. I missed that when I was on the Board of Selectmen. So, you know, for what it's worth, I'm just suggesting that we sort of maintain the status quo. If people have questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer them, but I think our town is pretty well run. I think our town meeting representatives do a fine job, and I just don't think that we need to add a lot more people to it or reduce the size. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, John, thank you very much. You've touched upon the two areas that you're directly involved in. While we've got you, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but because you have had extensive experience politically and otherwise in the town, are there any other areas of the charter that you would like to comment on it? Now I'll give you the chance to do that.
I really don't have a lot of complaints about my experiences with the charter as we had it. That's not to say that it couldn't be improved, but off the top of my head, I don't have any serious, you know, in other words, when I was on the Finance Committee of the Board of Selectmen, there was nothing that jumped out at me when I was reading the charter that said, oh, well, this is wrong. I didn't see that. That doesn't mean that it wasn't. It just means that I didn't see it. So I'm sure that there are ways that we can improve it, but I didn't see areas where the charter was really problematic.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Dave?
Good.
No, please.
John, two questions about the FinCom, if I might. One is, the FinCom spends almost all of its time on reviewing the budget. They never spend any time reviewing how the money's been spent. I don't know whether that's historical or whether that's in the regulations, or whether it's just they don't have time to get to it. I would think that there should be some resources made available to actually look at how money is spent after the fact.
Well, there's two aspects to it. The one is on the municipal side, and the other one's on the school side. And the Finance Committee, which is purely an advisory board, will recommend a budget. Okay, the town manager submits a budget. Sometimes there are items that the Board of Selectmen or the school committee wants changed or reviewed by the Finance Committee. But the budget is pretty well set out. In other words, a certain amount of money is set aside for public service. A certain amount of money is set aside for the schools. A certain amount of money is set Cemetery Commission or Department of Public Works, whatever. I don't think it's really the function of the Finance Committee to micromanage town expenditures. In other words, if I was on the Finance Committee, who am I to say that the head of the Department of Public Works should have spent more money on salt in a given year as opposed to sand or overtime for snow removal, okay? We have to have a certain amount of confidence in the leadership in our town. We've got a very capable town manager, and I think that the department heads are very able. You know, I don't think that the police chief or the fire chief would want the Finance Committee to look into the fact that they have decided that they need certain number of police officers or firefighters on certain shifts. They have to know their job. So in that regard, I think that would go beyond what we would be doing as a Finance Committee. But more significantly, I don't think that it's really good for the town. I think that if there are problems with the way money is spent, certainly there are situations where people who know about that can say to the town manager, I don't agree with the way this is being spent. They can bring it up at Board of Selectmen meetings. They can talk to whichever department head it is to inquire as to why they've made that decision. I just don't think that the Finance Committee should be in the position of looking at every single expenditure with the view of being critical about it.
Second question I had was maybe, maybe of a similar vein, and that is, we saw it last year or 2 years ago where Tom Gilroy was looking for information from the school committee, and he was unable to get it. And there was a bit of a debate about whether or not, if the finance committee asks a question, should a department head be required to answer it? And at that time, the answer was no. The department head isn't required to appear before the finance committee. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not, in a fact-finding mode, the finance committee should have more authority?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that for the purposes of looking at, in that particular situation, there were certain accounting and bookkeeping failures, for lack of a better term, that resulted in a serious financial impact to the town. And I believe that would be well within the Finance Committee's purview to request documentation to do that type of investigation.
Would you recommend that perhaps we should try to strengthen? Because I think there's a section on the duties of the FinCom.
There is, and the way the present charter reads is that the Finance Committee can inquire into any financial matter before the town. So that's already in there, but that's not to say that that could not be fleshed out or strengthened or amplified in some way, so.
Thanks. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Doug.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the speaker. I just had to say that because it's so backwards. One of the things that we were talking about last week was around the engagement level of town meeting representatives. Do you have any advice or opinions as to how to further engage town meeting reps and keep the lights on? There you go.
Now you just have to leave your hands.
Speak with your hands.
You'll have to stay for the whole meeting because you're the guy that can turn the lights on.
Do you have any recommendations or suggestions about how to increase the level of engagement and involvement of the town meeting reps?
Right. Well, I think it's a good question, and clearly there are some who are very engaged and others who are less so. I think we are one of the very few towns, there may be 2 or 3, that have what we call a pre-town meeting, where the town manager goes through the entire warrant and explains what's going on. I don't know how you know, part of the problem is that we're all busy, okay? There are town meeting reps who may be working 2 jobs or who get out of work or work odd hours and are not around to watch meetings like this or selectmen meetings or school committee meetings. Fortunately, you know, when I was on some of these boards, you couldn't get them online. But how do you mandate that? How do you say to someone, you know, you're not doing your job, you have to watch these various meetings? And I'm afraid that if you try to make it so onerous to people to watch these various meetings, some of which I've been involved with, which, you know, it's almost like death sitting through them, you know, I think that you know, I've always tried to engage them. I try to make town meeting as user-friendly and sometimes perhaps even enjoyable. But I don't know how you can mandate that. And I'm afraid that if you try to make, you know, some sort of litmus test, that we're going to even have a more difficult time, because if there's a working mother who is a town meeting rep, or even not a mother who's not working, who has to deal with children. You know, they've got 2 or 3 kids, but they want to be town meeting reps, and they try to follow as best as they can. But a lot of these meetings take place at times when they're putting their children to bed or helping them with their homework or things like that. And sometimes, to be honest with you, people are just too tired at the end of the day to sit down and watch a 3-hour selectman meeting or a 4-hour school committee meeting or whatever it may be. So I'm not, I understand exactly what you're asking, and this is a problem that has been going on since we've had town meeting, whether it's representative or open. You know, I wasn't around when we had open town meeting, but I've met moderators where they do have open town meetings. And, you know, a lot of people who go to those town meetings, they're a one-issue person. They're going for the one issue, and they don't care about anything else, but they've got to vote on these other things. I like our system better. I think that our town meeting reps do, most of them do a very credible job at preparing for town meeting. And fortunately, we have a lot of things online that they can take a look at the warrant book beforehand, and you know, we've got this pre-town meeting that the town manager does for us, which is, again, extraordinary.
Thank you.
I just appreciated your comments on the FinCom, having been on both sides of the coin like you, having served on both committees in the Board of Selectmen. I always appreciated the fact that the FinCom was neutral, and I think most people who go to town meeting really hold them in high regard and respect their opinions and their recommendations just for that reason. So I appreciate you pointing that out, that that's how it works and that it should remain the same.
Well, that's the way I've always felt about it. Okay?
And just one comment about the meetings. I think Chelmsford Telemedia does a great job about putting all the meetings on YouTube. So I'll say it publicly for the few people that might be watching this evening, that they can watch the meetings anytime. And actually, many of the warrant articles that are before town meeting soon, there's been some great and very lively discussions at the planning board meetings, at the selectmen meeting. I mean, if you really want to be informed, town meeting rep, just catching even just glimpses of those meetings will help you to have a better understanding of the issues at hand.
And more to the point, they can get the agendas so they can actually take a look at what issues and at what meetings those
Right.
issues are going to be discussed. So that if, you know, we have a zoning overlay that's, you know, going to be coming before us, they can see what meetings those were discussed, and they don't have to sit through weeks of meetings when they can possibly just,
Right.
you know,
Valerie,
identify a
are
few.
you a relatively recent town meeting rep?
I am, absolutely.
Just not, I haven't been a town meeting rep maybe for 6 or 7 years. When someone becomes a town meeting rep for the first time,
Yes.
is there any kind of like a 1 or 2 hour educational meeting as to
There is.
what the warrant means, what the budget means, stuff
Yes.
like that? There is.
Yeah, the town clerk holds an orientation session for new town meeting.
And does
rep-
Paul participate in that too,
I
to talk about the budget and stuff
w-
like that?
I was there, but I can't remember if Paul was there. I'm sorry, that I can't
No,
remember.
but it might
But
be,
there is
you
an
know, that might be
orientation.
something we could talk about.
Yeah.
Not that we want, your comment about time is the difficult one, but
Right,
I
Right.
know that a lot of, most companies, when a new employee comes in, they have some kind of training and right?
yeah.
Some towns do have a handbook,
Good.
but a lot of the information in the handbook is actually contained in the book that the Finance Committee prepares for town meeting. It's at the back, but it talks about, you know, the different protocols and behavior.
Yeah.
So,
My turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things we've been discussing for the last 2 or 3 weeks has been the numbers, 162. Is it enough? Is it too few? Is it too many? Number two, what do we do to entice people to come and be town meeting reps because of the vacancies that we have every year? Like you said, there's 5 or 6 as we speak.
Well, those were vacancies that were, people moved out of town or changed.
And I understand that, and I understand that people pass away. And some of our feeling was the incumbents only have to sign a letter to get back on the ballot
Right.
instead of going around the neighborhood or the precinct, getting another 25 signatures. Because it has been I was a town meeting rep in the early days. And 3 or 4 years ago, I came back to the events. And it's been my concern that there's not enough bodies in the room versus the 162. And it's nice with the electronic voting because it's a record.
That's right.
And I was of the opinion that we weren't getting enough people either staying or even attending for one reason or another, and not just 5 or 6.
Well,
So I went back and I looked at spring of 2016, fall of 2015, and spring of 2015. And I got all kinds of numbers in there, and I won't bore you with all of the numbers I came up with, because you can come up with numbers with an Excel spreadsheet like that. Even I can. But in the spring of 2016, the most we had voting that night, or nights, was 143. The least we had was 128 for the same night.
Yeah, and that's on any specific warrant article, is that what you mean?
That's on,
Because some people choose not to vote on a warrant article.
yes, some
right.
people either weren't in the room
Yep.
or
Yep.
chose not to vote or whatever. And so I looked at the max min and I looked at the average, and on a maximum basis, it runs 19 to 22 for the 3 town meeting periods of people not voting.
right.
Does anybody check that against?
Are you saying people who are actually present but don't vote?
I don't know.
You don't know?
These are
okay.
people, I have the numbers of people actually voting.
But people who are there who don't vote, that is a vote, right?
But it doesn't register.
I understand, but that's different from someone who doesn't show up.
And that's the unknown.
Right. Well, what I think, Mr. Burke, I think that if you looked at it, you would find that a lot of the no votes are in the later warrant articles.
Right.
Okay, unless there's a hot button warrant article, I think that you'll see that they show up, they'll be there for an hour or 2.5, and then there's no votes from that individual.
Do they have to check out if they leave early?
They do
now?
check out.
Now?
They do have to check
I
out.
guess so, I've never.
because they have
That's
to-
fairly recent, that's fairly
They have to
recent.
turn in their device.
Yeah, that's fairly, yeah,
Right.
that's fairly recent.
I mean,
Yeah.
But that's true. The numbers show that as the evening gets later, the count goes down.
right, right.
You know, and that's human nature.
I mean, here's, if you want to think of something creative to do, and I'm not sure how you actually do it, we do have an attendance requirement. But the attendance requirement is that you have to show up
Right.
at the meeting. So theoretically, someone could show up, vote at the first vote,
And then go home.
and leave, and they've met their
Right.
requirement. Now, every year, I have hearings for people who do not meet the attendance requirement. Okay, and I listen to what their rationale is. Some of them have medical issues, some of them have family issues, some of them have employment issues. You know, they have to be out of town for business, and they miss a Tuesday, a Monday, and a Thursday meeting, and maybe one of the meetings was 2. You know, we had a special and a regular. Well, now they've missed 3 meetings, and for that period of time, they may not have attained the 50% requirement for attendance. So if you want to think of something that you can try to do, and I have no idea how you do it. You change the charter so that the people who attend must also attend a certain percentage of the votes. I don't know. That's not what I'm recommending, but this is an issue that you've brought up, and we try to deal with it as best we possibly
But
can.
to do that, I think you'd also have to formalize an abstain vote.
We have an abstain vote.
So I was trying,
Yeah.
oh, you do have
Is
an
it just
We have an
not-
abstain
is-
vote.
Is it?
Absolutely.
There's a handful.
Do you say I abstain, or do you
Yes.
just not vote?
Yes.
Yes, you
There's,
abstain.
if you're
No,
in
you-
favor, if, on the screen,
Button number 3.
right, on the screen, green is you're in favor, red is you're not, and gray is that you, I guess it's gray,
It
right?
says abstain.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the screen, it's sort of gray. It might be bluish gray. I mean, look at what I'm wearing. I mean, color-wise, I'm not really good at that stuff.
Yeah, I can't help you either.
I think the percentage of votes is difficult. I mean, take the budget, that can go the whole evening, and that's one vote.
That's right.
And then other times, you could have one article that takes half the night, and then you could bang out some of those
Right.
standard articles. So if they leave after one, they could miss the majority of the votes, even though they're standard transfers into different funds, you know. But we were trying to look at doing the all-in-one vote. I can't think of the terminology.
Consent agenda?
Yes,
Consent agenda.
consent
Oh.
agenda.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked last time.
Yep.
And we're going to, there's nothing this town meeting that would merit a consent agenda, but certainly next spring there should be.
Excuse me, what is that?
That's where you bundle a bunch of routine votes so that we
You
only
do them all
take,
at once?
yeah, we vote once. And we can sometimes get rid of 4 or 5 or 6 different warrant articles on one vote.
Would it be helpful if that was in the charter? I mean, it worked very well. I thought it,
I mean, if you want to codify it in the charter, I don't have a problem with it. As a practical matter, it's really the moderator's discretion.
Yeah.
Yep, and the moderator has broad discretion under the state statute.
Right.
okay.
as
His
to what he
meeting.
can do.
It's his meeting.
Because
right?
it worked very well the last. That's good, John. You're doing quite well.
I'm obviously not lively enough.
Find out about it.
Okay.
What do you think of requiring people to go back through the signature process after their term is finished? Is that a hindrance, or is that a?
I would say that it would be a hindrance to ask people to go through and get 25 signatures because they've already done it, they've served. And town meeting rep is a little different than everything else. You know, if I run in the spring, I'm going to have to get signatures again to be moderator. You know, if I ran for the selectman a second time, I would have had to get signatures. But that's a different, really, type of position, I think, than town meeting rep. And anything that we can do to encourage people to participate, to me, is a good thing. And anything that we do that throws a roadblock in the way, to me, is not necessarily in the best interest of the town.
I think you just answered the question I was going to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have an opinion on the provision of the charter relative to allowing people to miss X number of meetings and then by petition to the moderator they get reinstated? Or do you think that's adequate, or do you think we should simply stick to the requirement? If they miss that number, they're out and they have to run again for re-election in the spring. Do you have an opinion on that?
I don't really. I mean, if you decided that if someone missed it, I think it's somewhat unfair. If someone has a serious medical problem and they're out for 2 weeks with surgery or pneumonia or something like that, and they miss a whole session, it's sort of. I think that personally, I would prefer, just on the basis of fairness, that they present their case to me, and I adjudicate it. But if you recommend something different, that's,
Okay, no,
You
I'm
can live with that.
just to get your opinion on it, so you recommend that the appeals process is currently outlined in the charter stay intact, basically?
yes.
Okay, all right.
I've seen very few situations over the 2 years that I've handled these, or is it 3 now? I think even though I've only served 2, I think I've actually was involved in the year before of attendance before I served. There have been very few situations where I felt that someone was being neglectful. Most of the time, their excuses were pretty serious. So.
Anyone else? Well, we certainly thank you for coming before us and sharing your views with us, and I know that we've made some notations, and when we get to those sections of the charter, we'll discuss it, and we will once again revisit your opinions, and we're very grateful that you have taken the time to come speak to us tonight.
Well, it was my pleasure, and I wish you luck. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're going to need someone else to walk now.
That's the one thing I said I was going to do that I haven't done, is find out about the lights.
lights.
So I'll make a note to myself to talk to the town manager about that. Okay, that was very instructive, I think. Now, next item is approval of minutes. So we have the minutes of September 27th that has been provided to us by Emma. And if we can have a motion to approve, second, and then discussion, we can talk about changes if there are any. We can take just a minute if you want to just review just for a minute. I think you did a very nice job getting the personalities attached to the various comments that were made, so thank you very much for that.
I did have just one question, not necessarily about the minutes, but about the posting of the minutes. I noticed that they're posted up on the town website now. Should we be waiting until after we've approved the minutes to post them?
They should.
Mhm.
They shouldn't be posted on the website. I believe they can be like, I don't know, like I have to like log in to see it. I don't post them, but I believe that they can be edited after posting if it's the document. I just edit the document and we re-upload it. Or if they're typed directly, it wouldn't be posted.
Yeah, so I think they're linked to the agenda
Yeah.
because one of the agenda items is the approval of the minutes. So they're linked as a draft document.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then once we review the minutes and edit them, I think, do you pass the edits on to?
I send them to Trish.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so I'm assuming that she would then upload the edited minutes to the,
Yeah, really, to answer your question, that is not, they're not supposed to be finally posted until they've gone through the process that's just been described, okay? And that's done through the, town manager administration, and also the town clerk is the one who's in charge of keeping the official record. So I think, it sounds like that's what we're doing. So I think we're okay there. Yeah. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion, changes, edits? Give you another few seconds to think about that. Everybody, okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much, Emma. Good job. The next item that I would like to take just a minute to talk about, and I apologize that I was not able to make this portion available online to you, but as you see in the agenda, it says update presentation for fall town meeting, and we had talked about in our previous meetings, as part of our outreach, doing a very brief presentation to the fall town meeting, basically a get acquainted with the charter committee type presentation. So with that in mind, and I've passed this out, you've got it in front of you, it's a 6-slide presentation. And the first slide is simply a cover sheet. So that gives me 5 slides to talk about. So I don't intend to take more than
5 minutes.
20 or 30 seconds a slide. Okay, that's it. I don't want to be up there, and I don't imagine we'll have any questions. So if you want to just take a look, and you know, I did these, if you have any suggestions as to changes, the format's pretty simple. I tried to keep this as simple as I possibly could. Slide 2 simply is a definition of what the charter is and what it does, just by way of introduction to the town meeting and anybody who might be watching. Slide 3, just a brief statement as to what a charter review committee is. A reference to what happened the last time the charter was reviewed in 2005 actually did result in some changes that were adopted, and the fact that it's recommended that charters be reviewed every 10 years. Slide 4 is essentially what we do, what our charter is. And I will make the point to the body, the last bullet, that whatever we decide to do here is not a change to the charter. It has to go through a defined process, Board of Selectmen, town meeting, and the voters before any changes take effect. Page 5, simply a listing of the membership. I think I spelled everybody's name right. Hopefully I did. And then slide 6 is just a little blurb saying, letting people know where we meet, when we meet, the fact that we are broadcast live on telemedia, the fact that we do have open session and people can come and give input if they desire. Also a reference to the form, the input form, and where it may be found on the town website. So that's pretty simple, pretty basic. So if this meets with everybody's approval, we'll go with this slide deck. I'll let Trish know, and it'll be we'll be on the Monday. Article 1, here reports. I think there are only 3. We're 1. So anybody want to make any comments or make any suggestions or changes?
I'd suggest we put an expected completion date of
All right.
our
That's
task.
an excellent idea. Yes.
I would also suggest we put chairman after your name so people know who the chair is.
All right. They're listed in no particular order. I started at the end of the table and just went around.
Fine, yeah.
Chairman, next to your name, though.
You want me to identify as, how about identifying Mike as vice chair and Valerie as secretary? Okay. All right, we'll do that.
I think these are very good.
You know me, Dave, I like to keep things simple.
No, that's
Yeah.
what this should be, right?
Do we also want to put in here a quick blurb about our open comment at the 2 open comment sessions that we have coming up? Just maybe mention those dates?
I thought I would, that's a good point, Doug. I thought I would speak to that, but there's room on this, I'm not gonna make another slide, I promise. There's room on the slide, I can add that, so I will. I think that's a good idea. And that's something else I want to talk about too, so, public forum session. We'll add that. All right, so, and Dave suggested the expected completion. Does everyone agree that we should be taking 12 months, or do you think we should be going the full?
Work expands to meet the time available, right?
I think we talked about this before, and I think we.
We can always extend it.
Right.
I think the schedule we set is probably the right one.
Okay.
but-
So I'll add the expected completion date. We'll talk about the upcoming public forum session, and we'll add the titles for the committee officers. Anything else? Okay, good. The only other thing I want to talk just very, very briefly about in that same vein, I know we had talked in the previous meetings, discussed having the public input session, our first session, which is in 2 weeks, at the senior center. And this has become problematic, scheduling it at the senior center. There are several conflicts and so on and so forth. It's difficult for telemedia. And so with the committee's indulgence, I exercised a slight bit of executive prerogative and said, okay, we'll forget it. We'll just have the open session here. Okay, it's too difficult to try to do live telecast at the senior center on that date. You know, and they wanted us to move the dates around, and, you know, we spent quite a bit of time in solidifying our schedule, and that I think would have been more disruptive if we had tried to do that. So, with apologies to the committee, without consulting you in advance, I told the town manager's office, no, we'll have the public session here. Hopefully, we'll get some public input, and we will mention it, as we just discussed. We'll mention that at the town meeting, that they can, if they haven't had enough of meetings, they can come the following week and give their public input for the charter. So. I just wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of that. So, okay, now, at 10 minutes of 8, let's get on to the balance of our work here, which is actually reviewing the charter. So we are still, am I doing this right?
Our webpage still says at the senior center for 10:25.
It does? Okay, thank you. I'll make sure that gets changed. Thank you, Mike. I'll get on to Trish first thing tomorrow. She was copied on those emails, so she knows. Okay. Let's see. We're still on section 2.1, I believe. And we had taken a vote the last meeting that we weren't going to change the form of government, okay? But I think we left off on a discussion, which Mr. Curlin picked up on tonight, as to the number of town meeting reps we should have. So if do we have anything more to say on section 2.1?
We covered it pretty well.
Section 2.1, okay. If everybody is comfortable with section 2.1,
I believe we should have more town meeting reps.
I'm sorry, Dave,
I believe we should have more town meeting reps.
we should have more town meeting reps. Okay. Do we want to continue that discussion?
Well, I mean, we've gone over the arguments and the debate. I think if I understand the numbers that we went over last meeting, we were talking roughly 34,000 inhabitants, which breaks down to the 9 precincts that we have. The 9 precincts that we currently have average about 3,780 inhabitants per precinct. To add 1, to make it 9 precincts with 7 reps, and then you'd have to go 4, you'd have to go 2, 2, 3, I think, right? Whatever, we'd go to 180. I think that the numbers go from 162 to 189 to 243. 243 would be the maximum because we can't, actually, we couldn't go to 243. I think the maximum is 240. So we couldn't do that. So we presently have 9 precincts, 6 per 3 terms, and 6 for a total of 18 in each precinct. If we went to, the next one would be 3 terms of, I misspoke, it'd be 3 terms of 7 each, and that would be 189. And the next step would be 3 terms of 8 each, so it'd be 24, and that would go to 243, which we can't. So I would recommend that we consider going to 189 rather than the 162, that we not change the number of precincts, because that still works, right? And I'm using a number of 34,000 inhabitants, and I'm assuming an inhabitant means a child. Because 34,000 includes children, I think.
Yes, it does. That's total population.
Even though an inhabitant can't vote, but yes, yeah. And I don't know what the exact number is, but the closest number I could find was roughly 34,000.
Yeah. Registered voters is around 21
Yeah.
or 2 or.
Right. I just think, I understand John's arguments, and I think some of you share his concerns of that it's difficult to get people to attend and to participate now. I think that can be offset with the more people we get to participate, the more democratic the process is. So that's my argument.
Okay, so what we're talking about here was section 2.1. What Dave has suggested, he's not suggesting that we change the number of precincts, but that we increase the number of town meeting reps per precinct.
I think it would go from 18 to 21.
18 to 21, which would bring it up to
189.
To 189. So 18 to 21 per precinct. Anyone have any comment on that?
And I'm assuming that the senior center could accommodate that increase, because it's not, what is it, 17 or whatever. I understand, I hadn't thought of the size until John mentioned it.
Yeah.
27
per precinct.
It's 3 additional people per precinct.
This is
times
27.
9 is 27.
27.
And there's what, 12 at a table, so
2
that.
extra tables.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I wonder if that would represent a problem with the fire department. I don't know.
I mean, what's the,
I have no
I
idea.
have no idea.
I don't know what the numbers are, but I know that there is a number, and if you
Yep.
exceed it,
Yep.
they get upset. So, it's a public safety issue at that point. And I know parking is a problem.
that will be,
Presently.
that's a problem now, right?
Presently,
Right.
that's a problem.
It's a
But
problem
anyway.
now.
Okay, so that's a comment that bears discussion or rebuttal, if you will, by anybody here on the committee. And if we don't, if there really isn't much discussion and you still feel that you would like that to be formally considered, you can make a motion and we'll vote on it. Dave, go ahead.
For discussion's sake, as I was going through and reviewing the methods or modes that we can use to change the charter, there's 3 different methodologies that we can use. In Method C, charter amendment as authorized under Section 43B, subsection 10, there is a restriction there that says, and I'll read this verbatim. In addition, however, a charter amendment may not relate in any way to the composition, mode of election, or appointment of, or terms of office of the local legislative body, town meeting representatives, the Board of Selectmen, or the town manager. So we would have to, if we feel so moved to change the composition of town meeting, we'd have to go through either Method A or Method B of charter review. We'd be locked out, or Method C would not be available to us.
Method C is the way we did it last time,
Yeah, I believe so.
which is the easy.
The easy way, yeah, it's the easy way. I'm not
What's your
saying.
total number, Dave?
127 times 9, I think, is 189.
180 what?
189, up from 162.
That's interesting.
The difference being between B and C is that I believe in B, the charter change would have to go before the general court, whereas in the easy method, the Method
Just
C,
town meeting.
it's just an attorney general 30-day review.
So that we can put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
And the timeline is longer on B than it is.
And we don't know whether, well, we don't know whether any other changes would require A or B, because we haven't discussed them yet.
We haven't gotten there
You
yet.
know, if it turned out that after all of the charter review, the only one that would take us away from C is this one, then that would have a lot more import. And then if we had half a dozen changes, which I don't think we're going to have, but that all required us to do A or B.
Yeah.
Well, before we get there, is there any sentiment, does anybody support Dave's recommendation? Let's do it that way.
I could get behind that recommendation, even though last time I was arguing for fewer people. I was swayed by the discussion that the state legislature had a target or a goal of town meeting being at 240 persons.
Mhm.
So us moving closer to that stated goal seems like a noble cause.
Anyone else?
I can support that.
Okay.
I would think that with a higher number, you would not require incumbents to go get the 25 signatures. I would say make it simpler. I agree with John that we'd have a detriment if we didn't, or if we made them go get the 25. But if you're missing whatever the number happens to be, 15 or 20% of the people, and you raise the total, and you still lose, you still are down 10 or 15%, then you're getting more people into the town meeting form of government. And that makes me agree with Dave's number. And we're almost there with the 2.1, because it says the approximate proportion is membership not to exceed 180, and we're pretty close to that 180 with 189. So it's not a dramatic 200 and, plus. It's just a little incremental change.
Well, if we did 180, then you wouldn't have to.
Now, would you have to change? You'd have to change the.
Well, you don't have to.
You'd have to change the 18.
You don't have to do the same number
Right.
every year in a 3-year term. I mean, we don't have that with the Board of Selectmen, we don't have that with the school committee. So, I mean, you could, if you wanted something less than 189, you might go like 6, 6, and 7, or 6, 7, and 7.
180 would be 776.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Are there any practical reasons that it has to be an even number, evenly divisible by the number of years, by 3? I remember reading somewhere it said it had to be divisible by 3.
I think it's in the statute, and that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And you couldn't do 180.
That's so,
Yeah, well,
that's so that
180
every year you're
You can
re-upping
do 180.
a third.
The same, right,
The group.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that, I can see the logic behind turning it over in an equal number every year.
Do
Yeah.
we have any sense of why the charter sits at 180? Why did it put that cap on there?
I think last week we were discussing by looking at the numbers, it was because we have 9 precincts. Trying to reverse engineer how we came to it, the 9 precincts, and then if we had the provision to go to 10 precincts, that we could go the extra amount without having a problem. I remember explaining it last week, it dawned
Yes.
on me why they did it. Yeah.
That's exactly what you said.
What about finding town meeting reps to run? If we increase the number of reps, will we be able to
Chapter
find people that
43A,
want to serve?
Section 4, the largest number
I
divisible
think,
by
I think
3,
we
which
may
will admit a res-
have more difficulty, but I'm not sure that's a reason
cause
to
the
have a
total
lower
likely
number.
to be as nearly 240 as may be. Doesn't say under or over, though.
Yeah.
So another reason for increasing the number of reps would be to open up, for lack of a better word, to make it more democratic. Is that Dan, is that your point of view, pretty much? If we get more people involved in the process and voting and so on, it's a little bit more democratic?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably a little bit more diverse because there's
Yeah.
a bigger pool to draw from.
Okay, anyone else have an opinion on this?
Do you want to take votes on these, or do you want to just
Eventually I
Or do you
do.
want to just put them on a list?
Well,
And then we'll
I
address
think,
them all at once towards the end?
I don't want to do it tonight because we're missing
Okay.
3 members,
Yeah.
okay? But I would like to make a notation that this is something in section, Emma, if you want to take it down this way, in section 2-1, we're talking about the number of town meeting reps that we ought to have, and for future vote, that will be an issue that we want to have a fuller discussion and then take a vote on
It's directly
the maximum number of town meeting reps that we should have as specified in the charter, okay? So that'll be section 2-1, so I think that's a good thing. I feel more comfortable, that's a major change, and if we're going to make that change, I'd feel more comfortable with the entire committee membership being here, so.
Do you think we should invite the town clerk to weigh in on that particular discussion?
I assume is she going to, we've invited her, right?
Yeah, she has been
So we can,
invited,
yeah,
yeah.
we can ask her.
I would imagine she'd like to speak to that as well.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll be here, yes.
She may not want to speak to that until after November 8th.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Pretty busy leading up to that.
All right, so we're going to have a future vote on number of members. Anything else in section 2-1 that we ought to address at this point? Okay, I don't hear anything, so Well, congratulations, we're on section 2-2 now. Okay, moving right along, Dan.
But you don't have a vote on section 2-1, so you're
No, we're
technically still on it.
Yeah.
Right, for discussion purposes, we're on 2-2.
Okay.
So,
That's great.
establishment of districts. Anything there that we need to,
I had a suggestion, but I
Discuss.
think you all told me it was impractical, so I'll
well,
probably.
go ahead.
Well,
Please
right-
restate it.
Right now, the precincts are delineated by streets. And a street is a neighborhood which usually describes a socioeconomic area. And if the precinct is split down the middle of the road, you've got,
And some are.
yeah, my street is, you've got half the street in one precinct and across the streets in another precinct, as opposed to all of the houses and neighbors being in the same precinct. I think the practical reality of drawing the precinct line behind the house lots probably doesn't work.
No, not in this town.
So it's probably impractical.
Might work in California with a
Straight lines.
neighborhood that was designed that way, but these certainly weren't designed to be practical.
Yeah, I really don't know how else you would,
Um,
how else you would do that.
So other than that, I think the way we do it is fine.
Okay. Anyone else on section 2-2? Wave the arms and get those lights back on.
So no changes.
Okay, so,
Oh, no, well,
go ahead.
it continues on the next slide.
next
Sorry,
page.
Yeah. So so 2-2 is actually 4 different slides. I mean, I couldn't fit all the text onto one, so you have to continue on and.
Okay, so, come on. You know, some of these things might be statutory, and if they are, and we talk about them and we decide we want to change, then of course, you know, it's all subject to review, you know, by town council. And
The
they'll-
only thing that's possibly going to put some pressure on where the precincts are is the build-out of multifamily residence, because generally the town is pretty built out.
Mhm.
But where we've got a lot of apartments going, that could skew some, but that's just once every 10 years, right? So it's not
Right.
we're putting a lot of people on Littleton Road now, so that's,
Yeah, they have to reconfigure every 10 years consistent with the census anyway, so.
it's amazing how our census has not really changed that much in 10-year periods.
You mean in terms of total population? Yeah, you're right, it's pretty flat. I think we've gone up 500 people since 1970 or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty,
Yeah, according to the town's website, it's 32,051 people
oh,
as
really?
of the 2015 census. 32,051 was the figure.
There's a couple of other
Lost population.
non-town
Well,
website
this was
numbers.
one from the town of,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are others, but that seemed to have the most recent, 'cause it was dated 2015.
It's probably driven off, although I think the town clerk updates it every year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So she's probably got one, she'll have one for the end of this year at some point in early 17. But
okay.
The statutory reference to section 2.2, talking about the size of the precinct, would be under Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 6, that talks about the division of towns into voting precincts.
Okay.
That's at 4,000?
Um,
No, it's a minimum number, isn't it? It's not a maximum.
Yeah, the last, slide 14, actually,
I think it says an equal number of inhabitants, and it says not more than 4,000 inhabitants per precinct.
2,500 to 4,000.
Yeah.
I think the section 6 provides the lower bound too, doesn't it?
in any town, each precinct
Oh, it's right there.
established must be as nearly an equal of that, but equal number of inhabitants, but not more than 4,000. So there's an upper bound.
Mm-hmm.
so this is an assumption on my part, but the decision to review, it says it's coinciding with the publication of the new state decennial census statistics. Is that something that the town clerk would have purview of and notify the Board of Selectmen that we have got new census statistics out and it's time to re-examine?
It was 2010, and the next one will be 2020.
20,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think you're probably right,
yeah.
because she's the one that,
Yeah,
So we don't have to,
that's right.
put any kind of language in here about that, obviously. no.
It comes from the Secretary of State down through the town clerk,
Right.
so, yeah.
Right, okay.
I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with the section as it reads, but
And
That's
again,
just my opinion.
the every 10-year requirement is in that same
Right.
statute.
It sounds like this section was written to be fairly consistent with the laws that are on the books at the state level. So, I don't have any problem with Section 2. I'm not desiring to make any changes, but that's just my opinion. Anybody else?
I second that emotion.
Okay.
I'd agree.
No, it's fine.
Fine.
All right, so
I have no issues.
we can defer a vote on that to a later meeting, anticipating complete committee membership. Okay, so it's the sense of the committee today, the 6 members that are here, that section is okay the way it's written. Okay. Good. Section 2.3.
You holding all the votes until we have full board?
Yeah, well, and
Committee.
let's hope we can get there, okay? I
Okay,
think
that's
we'll be
fine.
able to.
That's fine.
We'll make a note of it in the minutes, and then we'll put it on the spreadsheet, and that'll remind us to take those actions. Section 2.3, town meeting membership.
my only comment is to clarify whether or not we want town meeting reps who are running for re-election to get
Incumbents.
25 signatures. It's not clear. I think the consensus I heard was we don't think that they, well, I won't speak for Dan. Remember, Dan and I at one time thought that if you're running for re-election, you should still get the 25 signatures, not just send in a letter. We heard what John said tonight, and I think I heard some of you say, well, if we're going to increase the number of reps, then maybe we shouldn't require them to get signatures. I'd go along with that.
Again, yeah.
Okay, so the only issue here on Section 3, following up on what you just said, your only issue would be whether or not an incumbent town meeting member needs to go out and get his signatures again, or simply send a letter telling the town clerk that they wish to be listed on
Yeah,
the
and
ballot.
if we're gonna leave the charter the way it is, I just think it needs some clarification, that's all.
So
It's-
add
it's not-
something,
It's not clear.
no, it
Right.
doesn't talk about that, no.
Right.
Okay, so we have nothing here that talks about the letter,
No, I don't think we do.
you know.
A re-election section, maybe?
Incumbent.
Incumbent,
Yeah, either incumbent or real, or, yeah, either one. We can just add a sentence, say, any incumbent town meeting rep must, what was it, is it a letter to is it a form from the town clerk, is that what it is?
Yes.
Or is it a letter to the town clerk? I guess
It's a letter
both.
for us to respond to the town clerk.
Right.
With a yes or no.
Okay, so your recommendation would be, if we're going to change section 2.3, would be to add a sentence or two describing the town meeting re-up process.
Yep.
As it concerns the filing of a notification letter. Okay.
Would that be more appropriately placed in section 2.4?
Well, I don't know. Let's take a look.
And that's over 2 slides.
I
2.4.
could see it in 2.3 also.
I figured it was part of 2.3B, the nomination
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I think it's probably appropriate to be under
I think, yeah,
2.3.
2.3 is where it belongs.
Okay. That's another deferral.
Well, we could, yeah, and your suggestion, make it 2.3C
2.3C.
and call it incumbent nomination as opposed to a nomination or something
Okay, so
like
new subsection 2-3C.
See,
Give me that title again.
incumbent nomination, is that? No, I don't know if I like that. But it is incumbent, right? Or is it just incumbency? I don't know.
Well, they talk
I
about
don't
candidate-
think
candidates for
there's anything
re-election.
wrong with it, because the previous paragraph starts out with nomination procedures.
For candidates, and you could have the second candidates for re-election, just distinguish
Yeah.
Yep.
the
yeah.
difference.
Candidates
Like-
for
I
re-election.
like that, I
Re-election.
like that.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, so we're talking about adding a section to, or a subsection to section 2.3 town meeting membership, be section C, entitled Candidates for Re-election. And then we can discuss it or vote on it. Under that structure. That's good, I like that, that's very good. Anything else under that section? All set? Okay. All right, let's go on to boy, we're moving here.
Moving right along.
See, now,
So this is this is 2 parts.
this is a 2-slide one,
Yes.
election. Okay,
It's 2.4? Yeah.
yeah, 2.4.
Yes.
Okay. Talks about the,
I didn't have any comments on that one.
yeah. Yeah, I don't have any problem with
We
section.
just have to make sure that whatever we end up for the number of town meeting reps is consistent with how
Mhm.
it gets split up in here.
Any other comments? Okay. No issues. Potential adjust. For possible change. In membership number. Okay. Is everybody comfortable with the process of breaking the tie vote? That's the second slide. Doesn't happen that often, but it does happen.
Yeah, I think that's how I got in.
I remember that, actually. Yeah.
I think I was dead last with somebody else, and I was able to get one more vote.
Friends in high places.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
I actually do remember that, Dave. Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah.
You were tied for last, is it? Story of my life.
I know it. I was beginning to see the handwriting on the wall.
Doesn't matter as long as you get in. Right?
That's right.
A win is a win, right?
Okay, are we okay with section 2.4 the way it stands?
I don't have a problem.
Okay,
Lacking better judgment, I would go along with that.
okay.
2.5 is also, is that addressing attendance? Is that, I think, or not?
Vacancies.
Vacancies,
Is
yeah.
vacancies addressing
And that
attendance?
goes on for a few,
Oh, yeah.
that's 4 slides.
Because I thought what the way, I think John summarized the appeal process, I think is, I wouldn't want to change that to someone who doesn't. make
In
all
this,
these.
in the vacancies section 2.5, the language just read a little clunky to me.
Yes.
Which part?
For instance, 2.5A, second line down, upon the date of such filing unless a date certain is
It's,
unless a certain date is specified. It's like the words got switched or
A
something.
lawyer wrote it.
Yeah.
Well, no, your resignation becomes immediate unless you're tendering a date saying, I'll be through this town meeting, but as of
Right.
December 1st, I'm out.
Is that what a date certain
Yep.
means?
That's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah,
Something
you
written
you
by
have
a
to
lawyer.
specify a
Right.
specific date, right.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
his
get
wording
that.
could be absent a date certain for resignation.
Effective
Resignation
immediately
shall be
or effective such and
immediately.
such.
Okay.
Right.
It's just, it could be cleaner. I get Doug's point.
And then the next one down, a town meeting member, the first line, a town meeting member who removes from the town shall forthwith cease to be a town meeting member.
removes
Removes
instead
from-
of moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that handles it.
You don't have to move.
That's
I don't
right.
think, because technically,
You can be kicked out?
I took a temporary work assignment while I was a town meeting rep for approximately 12 months. I never gave up my address, but I wasn't here to attend, so I had removed from the town for 12 months. So I actually, under that provision, I did resign for 1 year.
So that covers, other.
Yeah, that,
Oh, okay.
I think that's that is a very specific meaning for that word, and I think that's why it's there, right? Let's go back to section A, because I like Mike's idea and Doug's idea of maybe clarifying that a little bit. And certainly that's well within our purview. We may go through this whole process, not change anything substantively in the charter, but maybe we clean up some language, and that's perfectly fine. And that's probably something that would have very little controversy going through the approval process. So I like Mike's suggestion that we take the second clause of that section and reword that just to take out some of the words and make it a little clearer. So Mike, do you remember what you suggested after
I
the,
said
after the
something-
semicolon?
I think I said something to the effect that absent a date certain, resignation shall take immediate effect upon filing, something like that. Is that clear enough for you? Resignation shall.
Absent a date certain, such resignation shall take effect upon the date of filing.
No, it's the other way around. I think what Mike was saying is it's effective the date you do file it unless you specify a different date.
If anybody has any suggestions, it doesn't have to be so formal. I mean,
Are we going to actually edit these on the screen?
Yeah, if you go out of present mode,
Oh.
I did add a little, I don't know,
Okay.
but I'm not sure where to go from here with it. And what you want to do.
Well, you could say,
here.
absent a date certain, such
Such-
resignation shall take effect upon the date of such filing, period.
Period.
And then.
The rest of it
and
comes
remove the
out.
rest of it?
Yeah.
Shall I remove it? I mean, we can always undo it.
Yep.
Actually, can you strike it out and leave it there? Just and put the
yeah, strike throughs.
Yeah.
So you know.
strike
yeah.
through so we can
Yeah.
see what it was?
There you go.
I can if I find it. Wait.
Track changes, right?
Yes.
There you
No,
go.
it's actually edit undo and this stuff here, so.
It's different on Google Docs.
Yeah, and
On-
now I
Yeah,
have
in
to
Word,
find
you
it.
draw a line through it and it
Yeah.
keep the original text, so.
Well, how about if I just do this? If I, put it in italics? I'll try. I'll play with it while the committee looks at it.
All right. All right.
Mike, why do lawyers use the words forthwith and therein and stuff like that? Is it actually have a legal meaning, or is it just historical?
My guess would be more historical because I have been to seminars now where they're trying to encourage lawyers to use plain English.
Good. Just as an
Basically,
aside,
it
there
means
was,
immediately, right? Oh, okay.
just as an aside,
Well,
there
that's
was,
good, Val.
there was some
There you
situation.
go, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
set.
that looks good, yeah, good.
Okay. So we have a sense tonight that that's the way, we want to make that change, and then we'll bring that in for a vote next time. Okay, I like that. Okay, that's Section A. Do 5 vacancies, Section A. Come on, move over. Section B. They like that word removal, don't they?
Well, I understand what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does the very last sentence mean? Any person so removed from office may be elected at the same election? That's providing he runs, right?
I think that's referring to, starting at the second sentence, if you move from one precinct to another precinct, you're allowed to serve until, I think, the next annual
Till you're-
election.
Next election, yeah.
But any person so removed may be elected at the same election.
Okay.
It's not clear. Explain that to me again.
Sounds like that's the intent, but it difficult to understand from the words.
Yeah,
I think, not to keep adding changes for the sake of changes, B is removal from town or precinct, so it's almost like you should have, a lower, a 1 or a 2. For removal from the town, you immediately cease being a town meeting member. But if you move precinct to precinct,
You can serve out.
you can serve out your term until the next annual town election, but any person who is removed from office from moving one, see, maybe that's where she, removed from office due to a precinct to precinct, may still run again in that next election in the new precinct. That's what it's trying to say.
Yeah, I think so too. And it should be a separate subdivision,
Right.
right?
you ought to have 3 parts really to that one paragraph, it seems to me.
Could you clear that up by just saying "or"? You can remain with precinct A if you move to precinct B, or you could be elected to precinct B at the next election. Or is that,
I think it's saying that
have I got it backwards?
you will be removed at the next election from your former precinct.
Yeah, that's, okay, that's what that means.
You can stay a town meeting rep until the next annual election, whether it's your turn or
You stay in
not.
your original precinct
Right,
until
right,
the next election.
right.
So maybe that's what we should say.
Yeah, I would be in favor of rewriting this entire section. I mean, I think it's, when you sit down and you look at it and you parse it, it's clear. I mean, I think the intent is clear, but I think the language is a little confusing. And I think with that.
So having it
To
as two
which,
sections,
yeah.
one leaving town and one leaving the precinct might
Right.
make sense?
Moving from one precinct to another, or,
Yeah.
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 So we could make it
Yeah, so
B,
for,
removal from town, then C would be removal from precinct,
right,
then D would be forfeiture of office.
right, exactly.
Or we could do B1 and B2.
Either, or you could
Then
do
you
that.
don't have to
You could
renumber
do,
your
yeah,
Cs
yeah.
and Ds.
Paren B, paren 1, paren. No, and then do paren B, paren 2, paren, right. So, and to just say removal from town is B1. And then removal from precinct would be B2.
Okay, so subsection B, so we want to do.
B1 would say a town meeting member who removes from the town shall, I delete the word forthwith, unless it means, I guess it means immediately, right? As
Right.
opposed, shall cease, so, all right, so shall, to me, cease means immediately, but maybe forthwith makes it clearer. Cease to be a town meeting rep,
Well, you could
period.
move to, say, Westford, but still come to town meeting, unless, if you wanted to zing somebody and vote. So
No, I
you
guess
have-
forthwith, I guess, so B1 is just that first sentence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so what I've done is, this is the original slide, and I've just, I've just copied it.
That's all right, leave the
And-
lights out, I can read it better.
That's actually an improvement, isn't
And
it?
this is sort of the,
Yeah. Then you'd say removal from precinct, you delete town or, and just say removal from precinct.
I realize it's easier to read like this, but we are being televised.
Oh, actually,
I don't know how that
so
affects
long as
the,
they hear me, they don't need to see me.
okay.
as long as they can see the screen, right?
Yeah,
What Dave was saying at the top line, you need to delete or precinct.
as we're being televised, is the TV camera actually showing that screen?
Delete,
I have no idea.
remove from town, I should delete this.
Yeah,
Get rid of that or
yeah.
precinct, yeah.
Yeah, the first one is removal from town.
Yeah.
Okay, so, do you want me to strike it?
Just strike or precinct in the very beginning, right?
Okay,
And then B2,
Would start at the beginning of the second sentence. Oh, you've got it in there, right? Removal from precinct, right?
Oh. Actually, I'm gonna put that in red, because I just
Highlighted
added
or
this,
tell,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Oh. Sorry,
Next annual town election.
it's not working the same way.
And that language is fine. I still have trouble with that last sentence in that paragraph. I don't quite know how it, we've all explained, I think, what we think it means.
Maybe
I guess I
maybe
do, I
elected
guess I
in
do
the same
understand.
election?
It almost should
I-
say any person removed from office pursuant to this provision may be elected at the same election as a town meeting in the precinct to which the member has relocated, you know.
No, yeah, but no, but it's going the other way, Mike, I think, when it says removed. I think what it's saying that from the, I think instead of to which, if you put in the word from, any person so removed from office may be elected at the same election as a town meeting member from the precinct from, the precinct from which the member has removed, as opposed to which. It's looking back and saying, where did you come from, right?
Does that imply that they could be elected to their previous
no.
precinct?
No, because they've left the
Any person
precinct.
so removed may be elected at the same election as a town meeting member from the precinct to which the member has moved.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what that means.
Yeah.
So it's the new precinct.
That's why,
Okay.
like, in the new precinct
Right.
in which he has moved. But I think it all goes back to your question of using removal. That
Right,
verb
right.
is really,
Mm-hmm.
I think if we change, if we don't use the word removed, I think that clears up an awful lot of potential confusion.
But back to Mike's point, that the idea of removal
Mm-hmm,
is seemingly more broad than
mm-hmm.
moving your physical address or mailing address or whatnot.
The problem is, though, if you read this whole section, and you use the word remove, you have to impute meaning. So in the first section B, it could have the meaning that Mike talked about. He didn't physically move out of the town, but he removed himself from the activity of the town, so it means that. Okay, but in the second sentence, a
But you
person is removed by revision of precinct lines. He's moved, okay? He has moved. That's what that means. So,
on second thought, in my specific, particular case, I would have been ousted by D because I would have failed to meet the vacancy.
Right.
So,
The attendance, yeah.
right, yeah, well, what was I thinking? I would have failed to meet the attendance requirements. So maybe we don't have to read it so broadly and just change it to anyone who moves
mhm,
from the town, and that might clear up some of it, because
I
they
think
use
so.
removal from office, and that, to me, has a different meaning when I remove you from office as to when they say who removes from the precinct. There's two different meanings.
connotations, yeah,
Yes.
Town meeting member who moves from the town.
But this is saying, in your case, Mike, you had to step down as a town meeting rep. Whereas if it falls under the attendance provision, you could go before the town moderator, make your case, and he could say you're still a town meeting rep.
Mine might be a special case in that I knew I was gonna be gone for a
I
year.
I don't think it is. I think a lot of people get assignments, right?
But I-
Particularly engineering people who may go on assignment,
Well,
right?
that's where I was at
Yeah.
the time, and I walked in and said, I'm gonna be gone
Yeah.
for a year, so I chose to resign rather than be knocked out by the attendance rules, and I figured it would also give someone else a chance to fill the slot.
Sure.
It was the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, you could vote via Skype, you know, somebody brings the computer right into the room.
Okay, town meeting
Don't-
member who moves. Okay,
Don't bring it up. don't-
No, we may want to talk about that later on.
that's clear. B is clear.
People to attend our meeting by Skype.
Yeah.
So B is clear, you think?
I think so. If we change remove to move,
Or moves?
A town meeting member who moves from the town shall forthwith cease to be a town meeting member. That's pretty clear.
that's pretty clear. You know, I don't think there's much interpretation there.
Then, I'm sorry, I can't read it.
Town meeting member who removes from one precinct to another. And do you have it, I mean,
I think
Would you
Clear
change
is-
that word to moves?
Yes,
As well?
absolutely.
So a
So
town meeting member
removes
who
to
moves
moves?
from
Yeah.
one precinct to another.
I suppose remove could also mean move again, right? I don't know.
Move twice.
No.
Who moves from the precinct to another,
Yeah.
or who is so, you're gonna have to read it to me.
So
Valerie, I'm
removed
sorry.
by revision of precinct lines. That means you haven't physically moved, but
Moved,
you've
but-
been removed
Right,
from the
you're
precinct.
now in a different precinct, right?
Yeah.
I believe there's other provisions of the charter that deals with precinct changes and the calling of new elections
Mhm.
in such case.
sorry.
Yeah, because we have done that, I think.
Well, every 10 years we redraw them and.
Yeah, I think we had a
Everybody's-
special election, yeah. There was one year when what, we either increased the number of precincts or
Emma, can you
decreased, and we had
drag
a
that,
townwide election,
After
right?
one of the
that
census.
line
We had a
between the
townwide election,
slides?
didn't we? Yep.
No, you can't.
And that's when the language of
It's
the
like
previous section
2001.
comes in play.
Mhm.
Try,
A third, 3-year, 2-year, 1-year.
under view, 100%, and see what that does.
We didn't change the number of precincts, they just had to be redone.
Okay, see this better.
from
Yep.
Now
legislature.
just move it up a little bit. Can we see it now, or no? Yeah,
No,
that's a little bit bigger now. Okay.
You got a brightness button somewhere? I don't know.
Okay. Oh, it's the lights.
Town
Yeah, the
meeting
lumens
member
of the
who,
projector
a
is
town
wrong.
meeting member who moves from one precinct to another, or who is so removed by a revision of precinct lines.
May continue to serve as
May
a
con-
town meeting member from the precinct from which the member was elected until the next annual town election,
Okay,
at which the remainder of the member's term, if any, shall be filled by ballots.
Ballots.
and that's in the precinct he came from, right?
Right. Any person so removed from office may be elected at the same election as a town meeting member from the precinct to which the member has removed.
So that's the precinct he's now
Yeah,
in.
right. but-
Yes.
Which the member has.
Has removed, okay, that, yeah,
But
that's,
I would almost take that last word and say,
has moved to?
To which
Something
the
like
member
Although you don't
has-
want to end it with a
or has
verb.
moved.
Has
just-
moved, yeah, take the
Take that
Yes,
re out.
yeah, same word,
Yeah.
same,
Right.
Two letters.
Has moved.
modern English.
Just seems to read a little bit better that way.
Everybody like that?
I thought of another use case where this may be applicable. Say if we have a college student that is a town meeting rep, and they're like going to UMass Amherst for this or something. They're still in state.
They may drive back. so
Yeah, I
you
may
would-
drive back. I don't know how that would apply, but
So there's,
Can you be,
Technically,
There's also
they
this.
haven't moved out of the precinct.
can a
The voting address is
student be
still-
registered to vote in Chelmsford even though they're going to school in Boston?
Yeah, I
yes.
would think so.
It's their home
Yes.
address, yes.
I can.
You can register in either place,
So in that case,
under state law.
that person, that student
Still a
could still be a rep
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Chelmsford even
Yeah.
though they're going to school in Boston.
Yeah, because I think it's their primary residence.
Yep.
and-
I think you're right.
I think the state law was changed about 10, 12 years ago. They've got a choice. I think
Yes.
a kid can,
Yeah.
Choose.
can choose to either register where they're domiciled at,
No, I think you're right, because there was a
School.
couple of news stories about
Yeah.
kids scrambling this fall to
Right.
figure out.
Yeah. What if they are going to UNH or something,
Hmm.
out of state?
and of course they, yeah. So,
Special circumstance.
okay,
Are we okay with this?
I like
for
this. I
now?
like this. I
All
like
right,
this.
so now shall I delete this slide? I mean, is it clear enough what we've changed, or should you want me to leave this in here?
I'd leave it there, because I think we're going to want to review the whole charter
Yeah.
with
All
all
right,
of our,
okay.
at the end,
Yeah, we're
with
gonna,
all of
yeah,
our
we're
changes
gonna,
in
and
it,
then
right?
we
So-
we
And we
probably
may
want,
not remember what we deleted
No.
4 months ago, right?
All right,
and we're gonna have to, yeah, we're gonna have to make a summary of changes, for a report, so, you know, and then next meeting, assuming that the others are here, we're gonna wanna quickly just go over this and bring them up to speed, so.
okay.
All right, so are we okay with a new B2?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Dan, you okay with this? All right,
Okay.
I'm good.
all right. Now we're on C. Forfeiture of office.
There's also a D, so, I mean, this, the
Mhm.
D continues on to the next page.
Okay, so C just deals with basic attendance. You have to attend more than 1/2 of the sessions of the town meeting held in a calendar year. More than 1/2,
50% plus one?
right. And if you don't, you're out of office.
What does the committee think about that, more than 1/2, as a standard for continuing to
That's-
be a town meeting rep?
That's only, it's what, 6, 1/2 of maybe 6 meetings, 3 in the spring and 3 in the fall? Maybe 8, 4 in the spring?
It could be the maximum of 8, right? I mean, I don't know.
Well, you
Monday,
could have
Tuesday, Wednesday,
specials in there,
Thursday,
too.
Specials,
Yeah,
that's
but-
right.
Yeah, but the specials are usually the same night as a, so if
But
you miss, you're right, if you miss 1, you may miss 2.
That's
But
right.
but it is a different meeting, so
Yeah,
it counts
so-
as a meeting, so, I mean,
I
there
thi- I
there's
don't
never
know.
more than 10, okay?
But what's the fewest we've ever had? I can
Yeah.
recall, I want to say we've had a fall town meeting where it's been one night.
Mhm.
Yep,
And you could, if it wasn't a lot, you could get out of Springtown meeting, and I don't think it's ever gone less than 2 nights, but there's 3, so that means if you miss one night, you're out. In a year, in a kind of a worst-case scenario.
So that's why they say more than 1/2, or not.
So Springtown meeting of 2016, we had a second night, we had a 4-article special, and then we had the balance of 5, I believe 5 articles for the original. So if you missed that second night, you missed 2.
Yeah.
And if
Oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
2 out of 3, you missed 2 out of 3. But that
Yeah, and if you didn't have 2 nights in the fall, you were done.
Right.
But John didn't
right.
suggest that this is the problem.
No.
When he talked to us tonight. He didn't suggest that appealing attendance was an issue with him. So if it, as he said, if it's not broken, don't
well, he
fix
did,
it.
yeah, and he didn't address the more than 1/2, I don't think.
No.
I mean, my feeling is, you're elected to be there. If you're not there, then you're not you're not representing your precinct.
Right.
And you shouldn't be there.
Theme park ride, and it's in the dark, the wave goes.
You know.
So you want to make it more restrictive?
No, I think
Oh,
this is
yeah.
fine. I think this
Yeah.
is fine, but I mean, I certainly, I would not support anything less than this. You know, I mean, you're elected to be there.
There is there an attendance requirement in the state legislature? I have no idea. No, I'm not trying to be a wise ass either. I mean, there probably isn't one in Congress.
Well, the voters are supposed to deal with that. If
Yep,
you don't show
right.
up,
Right.
Next
Right.
time you
We
come up-
don't-
that's right.
We don't publicize the attendance, though.
No, but now it is a matter of record with the electronic voting.
Yeah,
It's
but
easy,
you'd
it's
have
easy
to
for
go back
people
and
to
do-
see.
You'd have to go
Right.
back and do what Dan did. You'd have to go back and count, probably, that Mary Jones
Well,
missed.
I'll bet you a phone call to the town clerk's office, they'd accommodate you and give you the person's
Should
record.
people's attendance be published? Just publish it?
Attendance? Do they do that now?
No, I don't think so.
No.
The votes are publicly available.
The votes are public record.
The work is currently being done by virtue of what Mr. Curlin said, how he does have appeals and he does go through this adjudication process. So we know that some work is being done somewhere. It's just not necessarily published, and it's not part of,
And the administrative work is not cumbersome, or he would have spoken to it, I think.
we could list this as a question that we ask the town clerk about.
Well, when you show up at town meeting, you're checked in, okay, so that's your attendance. What John was talking about is a person who comes in, takes the first vote, and then leaves.
Oh, and that isn't,
And-
I think, it may not
Well,
be
I
an
know
issue,
one
but
former,
it happens quite a bit.
I know one former selectman who used to do it, okay? So, I mean, and he did it several times. So, it's a technicality, but, technically, he's there, okay, according to the records. So-
And when we had open town meeting, it was done all the time.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure.
People
By
show up
big
for one
numbers.
article, and then they leave.
Yep.
And then some smart person votes to reconsider the article, and then the person wakes up the next
So-
morning and reads in the paper that what he thought he
So
voted
this-
for was turned around.
So-
Good system.
This section C then applies to, there's two areas of discussion. One is the absolute percentage of attendance, the 50%. The other is what constitutes attendance. Is it just checking in, or is it checking in and checking out? I think I think maybe John was, one of you told me you effectively are checked out because when you return your.
You turn
click.
your clicker in.
Does everybody do that, or they leave them on the table?
No, you got to, you're supposed to turn them in.
Okay. So at least there's a
But they
record,
put in a,
but it's twice as much record keeping. That's,
But we haven't defined attendance. Attendance right now
Right.
is defined as you show up and you check in.
right.
That's it.
yes.
And so that's so
Right.
I think if you were able to tighten up the latter, certainly the former of how many meetings you have to attend, that's probably adequate. I don't know how practical it is to tighten up the latter, though.
Yeah. How granular do you want to get? I mean, just,
Here again, I haven't heard anybody complain that too many people are checking out. I mean, everybody knows that people do it.
You can tell by the vote.
I've seen people.
you've got the numbers, right?
and you
did
know-
I've got the totals.
Right.
You know, there are people who watch town meeting, and then as they follow through, they get in their car and they drive down and check in because they know something's coming up that they want to vote on.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Are you saying
That
town
was done
meeting
all the
members
time, but-
do that? Well,
Really?
we've certainly done,
I'm not
certainly
saying
done
there's
at
a
open
lot
town
that do
meeting.
it.
Yeah.
I know of a few that have done it.
Some have done it, yeah.
And those weren't done by watching it on television. Those were done by phone calls.
Oh, sure, sure.
From the floor.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Those were the good old days.
Yep.
So I think the question is, we're all okay with the 50%. Do we want to do something with respect to tightening it up? And my opinion is, we're losing 10 to 15%, according to the numbers that you presented earlier, over the course of the night. My own personal situation, things going on at home, whatnot, I don't have a problem with, I'd like everybody to be there all night long, but if, we're going till 11, 11:30, sometimes, some of those grinder pump meetings went, I think, past 11:30.
Town meeting?
Yeah.
There wasn't very much animosity with the grinder pump.
I would guess that attendance wanes during the evening if it's not very important stuff. And one of the things I know that the selectmen and the town manager do, they think about where on the warrant they want the articles, right?
Sure, would you just?
No, and I think that's perfectly fine, as a matter of fact, because if you've got routine stuff towards the end, so people are bugging out. That's the point you made. So maybe we don't change that either, until we hear that it's a problem.
Yeah.
But we certainly have the data. So maybe all we need to do is, this committee won't meet again for another whatever. But you could always monitor the data. But you couldn't do anything about it until the next time we reviewed the charter.
Could we ask the town clerk to at least clarify how that attendance is taken?
Mm-hmm.
Is it people checking in? Is it,
That's a good point.
I think it's people checking in, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But you could check in at the last 5 minutes of the night at
Sure.
10:45.
And that happens too, as Dave said, people come in late and they get credit for attendance. There's no differentiation with regard to the charter between attendance for 5 minutes and full attendance.
Right.
Right.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
or it may be a problem.
It may be a problem, right.
So do we want to try to address that or not?
my feeling is that that's getting overly complicated.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
think part of
no,
that
that's
goes
the
back
word.
to-
We're making it too complicated.
I agree.
brought up
Agree.
before, that should be something that if your constituency has a problem with your showing up and only casting one vote and leaving, then they should rectify that by.
Right.
Except I don't think your constituency knows, do they? Unless you published attendance.
That was something I was going to bring up, as an administrative point, should that attendance be published? I mean, I know the votes are published.
We can, as we said earlier in the meeting, in addition to actually doing what we're doing now and suggesting changes to the language of the charter, we can make administrative recommendations
Yeah.
to town officers, such as, in this case, we might make a recommendation to the town clerk, or ask, if it's even possible, as was suggested earlier, to do something like that. So if that's the sense of the committee, that we not really change any language here, but we possibly make a recommendation that attendance should be, or the record keeping for the attendance should be more formalized and made available publicly. Okay? That might be a recommendation that this committee could make. Are people comfortable with
I
that?
like that idea.
Yes.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
that's a great idea.
All right. So 25C. Recommend.
So that's not any language change yet?
No, I think
No.
it's a question
No, we
for,
wouldn't change
the
the
question
actual
for
language of
Honorina.
the charter.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a question for, right.
Yeah, we did that, Mike will remember this. We did this on the moderator
Yeah,
committee.
we made recommendations
Yeah.
for changes to the moderator and then,
Administrative procedural stuff,
and
right.
suggestions.
And you made, what, those went to the Board of Selectmen? Where do those recommendations go?
Well, they went to
we-
wherever they should go.
We made some to the clerk
Right.
about how to structure town meeting with the 2 screens and different things, which was really beyond the scope of our charge. We were there to look at the actual rules of town meeting, but there were other things that
Yep.
came up that were outside the scope of what we were, our mission. But we felt it was important to make those suggestions to the board. We made some to the Board of Selectmen, I
Yes.
think, too,
Mhm.
as well as the town clerk.
And I'm going to say made publicly available. Okay, that's a suggestion. All right. Do you want to go on and finish this section? We're a little bit over our time, but we may be able to.
You could probably knock off 2.6 too. It's pretty easy. It's
Okay,
one
so we're on 25D.
Actually, I just had one more
Oh, okay, I'm
thing
sorry.
to mention. The second paragraph of 25C.
Yep.
As I read that, one thing that struck me is when a town meeting rep is found to have missed a number of sessions, this administrative process kicks into action, but it doesn't say anything about any sort of notification of delinquency. You know, if a member is found to who has failed to attend more than one half of the sessions of the town meeting held in the calendar year may appeal the declaration of vacancy by requiring by requesting a hearing on removal. Should there be any language there about notification? If a member is found to be in violation of this section,
Probably
the
for
clerk-
clarification. I think he probably is notified
Yeah.
because
The
that's
town
why
clerk does it, yeah.
Incidentally, that suggests that somebody is keeping pretty good attendance
Yeah,
records too.
right.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Town clerk does it. And the town clerk is the person who actually does that notification. And actually, as you can see from this language, actually sits on that committee, so.
I don't know if that's just an administrative process that's already in place.
It is, yeah.
Does the language need to be included in a charter? Maybe not. It's just what struck me as I
Well,
read through it.
somebody has to make a declaration of vacancy. It's probably the town clerk, right? Because that's what you appeal. You appeal the declaration of your vacancy.
The member's place shall be declared vacant. Yeah.
If the member has failed to attend, and there's no record of that, and he's not been notified, then the whole thing is moot, okay? So, I mean, yeah, I think probably that doesn't need to be in there, but, you know, that's just my opinion. Anything else on that section?
And town council has to be present?
Yeah, that's the committee.
That makes it
Moderator
pretty
They
clerk.
do that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they do it.
That's $700 an hour. Or whatever.
Well, that's,
It's not that much.
No. 6. Right.
We have a pretty good rate,
Yes.
so.
The process of removing a duly
So do you
elected
wanna
member
suggest-
should be.
Do you want to suggest some language, Dan?
No, I'm fine as long, understanding that there's an administrative process in place. I'm fine with that.
I think council is there probably just to make sure that person's rights are protected,
Yeah.
so, whatever they may be. So,
Yeah, I'm fine letting that go.
Okay.
We can move on.
we're still on, 25D, next slide. Filling vacancies.
It seems to work. Right?
Okay, so for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know, you've got 6 slots open, 8 people run, 6 are elected, 2 are not. Those 2 go on a reserve list,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So that's what that
And
means.
the one with the higher vote
Right.
count is the first to fill a vacancy, correct?
Yes, and that list is valid for 1 year until the next town election.
And then if there aren't enough, then the sitting reps elect somebody,
Mhm.
correct?
Right.
Here we go again.
I think every time we should just
The
do a
wave.
wave.
Do the wave.
Yeah.
And you can tell us, Emma, you can just say wave, and we'll all do it, right? No,
Bring a beach ball, too.
I don't have a problem with this language as it exists.
Good, okay.
Do most write-in candidates have at least 10 votes? Huh. I'm just asking a question. It's late, but that's,
Well, what's the requirement for school committee and board of selectmen for writing candidates? Is it 10?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't think there's any minimum requirement of write-in votes for a town meeting rep.
There probably,
Is there?
I don't know, but there probably should be. I think getting one is probably,
Not good.
No,
I think I'd rather the body elect
I
it.
don't think there is.
No, I don't think there is
I don't think
either.
there is.
Should
I
there
think if
be?
you get one,
Which is
and-
yourself.
yeah, which is yourself.
I do remember one person I know who was elected with 3 votes. So, write-ins.
I mean, I guess that doesn't mean that we have to change this. I
No.
just asked that question.
Because
Okay.
most of the, when there's 6 running, they run the range of, what, 170 to 2 votes? So if somebody gets 3, that's cutting it pretty,
Yeah.
I mean, it should be low because, but I don't know if it should be 1.
Right.
Well, all the elected offices are under Section 3, and just a quick cursory examination. I don't see anything that talks about the minimum number of votes. There's a lot of talk about recall, but
Why don't we ask Honorina that question? Because maybe there should be in write-in for town meeting reps, maybe there should be some minimum, even if it's 1, which maybe should be stated in the charter,
And she will know that.
yeah.
Ask town clerk about minimum.
Write-in.
Number of write-ins to validate an election. To office, okay, I got it. All right, so we're okay with that. Now, this is going to be very controversial. Section 2-6, compensation. Representative town meeting members shall serve without compensation. Wow.
Amen.
Yeah.
representation without compensation.
Yeah, that's right. Does anybody have a problem with that? I don't. but,
Should be free coffee.
yeah, free coffee, well, then, I guess that's compensation then, isn't it?
Yeah,
Stay away. Yeah, but then they would deprive the Boy Scouts.
Then you have the Boy Scouts in the back who rely on the revenue, right? Their prices haven't gone up
no,
much in the last 10 or 12 years.
that's because nobody takes the change.
You're right. Here's $1, right?
Yep.
That's it.
That's true.
And it's donated, so
Yeah. Everybody's okay with 2-6?
Yes,
All right, so that being the case, we're now at 9:13, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
do you want to just ask if there's any questions on 2.7 or 2.8?
Oh, I don't know,
Just
okay.
to-
I will, because
If
there's
there
been
are, well,
no motion to adjourn,
If
so
there
we're
are,
still
if
going.
there are questions on it, then
Okay.
we can adjourn and do it next time. If there are no
Yeah.
questions on it, let's just clear it.
All right, so we're not adjourned, we're still meeting, so we're on section 2.7.
I don't have an issue with either. They're very straightforward.
Yep, I don't either.
Okay. 2.7 relates to the town moderator, 2.8 town clerk.
I have no issues or suggested changes.
Okay, if anybody has a problem, speak up. Section 2.8,
Anybody has a problem with two?
Excuse me.
I have problems.
Has the town moderator always been elected?
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Has there ever been anybody aware of a case where the town moderator is elected from the town meeting body,
You mean,
not at large?
It's
and-
provided for in the statutes. I don't know.
I think when you read town meeting time,
Yeah.
there are some, I think in some forms, at the beginning of a town meeting, like in an open town meeting, they could elect
Right.
from the body.
if the moderator is unable to preside, who takes his place?
Well, when I filled in for John, he's put my name up in nomination and asked the body to vote
Right.
whether or not.
So that's how it works. Okay, well, that's good. That seems to work.
That covers
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right.
So you want a motion to adjourn?
I would like one,
Now that we're
yes.
past 2.8?
Oh, wait a minute, let's make sure
Oh,
we
no.
know, we know where we are.
Past 2.7, right.
Okay, we're on 2.7.
2.8 is the clerk.
Well, let's do 2.8 while we're at it, okay, because that's, these are basically administrative.
No, I think 2.9, there could be discussion.
Yeah, 2.9 is, so let's take a look at 2.8. Clerk to the meeting,
I'm all set with that.
okay? Everybody okay with that?
Cause the publication of town
Town
meeting
meeting
attendance.
attendance.
Yep.
There you go.
It's right there,
So maybe we ought to
Yep, there's
find
the
out
attendance.
how it's
Your answer
done.
right
how
there.
it's done, yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to know how it's done,
Yeah, well, I'm still gonna,
yeah?
I'll still talk to the
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
clerk. Okay, good. All right, now we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. Good meeting.